the weirdest deaths in history. Death is inevitable. We all know this. It's the one universal truth that unites every human being who has ever lived. But here's the thing about death that nobody really talks about. While most people die in relatively predictable ways, some people throughout history have died in ways so bizarre, so absurd, so absolutely ridiculous that you can't help but wonder if the universe has a twisted sense of humor. I'm talking about a Greek philosopher who died from laughing too hard at his own joke, a king who died on the toilet, a lawyer who killed himself trying to prove his client was innocent, and a guy who was literally beaten to death by his own beard. These aren't myths. These aren't urban legends. These are documented historical deaths that actually happened. And they're so weird that when you hear them, you'll go through 5 stages of emotion: confusion, disbelief, horror, inappropriate laughter, and then a deep existential crisis about the randomness of existence. So let's talk about death, but not the sad kind, the absolutely bonkers kind. Here are 5 of the weirdest deaths in history. Death 1, Chrysippus, death by laughter, year 279. B. C. Let's start with Chrysippus of Soli, an ancient Greek philosopher. This guy was brilliant, okay? One of the founders of Stoicism, wrote over 700 works on philosophy, logic, and ethics. A genuine intellectual heavyweight. So how did this great mind meet his end? He got his donkey drunk, watched it try to eat figs, thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen, and literally laughed himself to death. Here's what happened. Chrysippus was in his 70s hosting a party, and someone gave his donkey wine. Because apparently that's what people did for fun in ancient Greece. The drunk donkey then tried to eat some figs, stumbled around, and basically did drunk donkey things. Chrysippus found this hilarious. He started laughing, and he couldn't stop. He laughed so hard and for so long that he either had a heart attack or suffocated from lack of oxygen to his brain. They found him dead, still in his chair, with a smile on his face. Imagine being a legendary philosopher, surviving wars and plagues and political upheaval, only to be taken out by watching your drunk donkey try to eat fruit. That's how you become a cautionary tale for the next 2,300 years. Some historians argue this story might be exaggerated, but multiple ancient sources mention it. And honestly, in a world where people die from the most random things, death by donkey comedy is weirdly plausible. The lesson here? Even your own joy can kill you. Philosophy, everyone. Death, too. King Edmund II, the toilet assassination, year 1016. King Edmund II of England had a pretty rough life. He spent most of his reign fighting off Viking invasions. He was tough, he was resilient, and he earned the nickname Edmund Ironside because of how hard he was to defeat in battle. But according to some medieval chronicles, here's how he actually died: assassinated while sitting on the toilet. The story goes that Edmund was doing his business in the privy, which was basically a wooden seat over a cesspit, when an assassin who'd been hiding in the cesspit underneath him stabbed him twice from below with a sword. Just think about that for a second. Someone climbed into a pit full of human waste, waited in the dark surrounded by filth, and then stabbed the King of England in the butt twice. Edmund obviously didn't survive. The assassin either escaped through the cesspit or died down there, depending on which version you believe. Either way, it's one of the most undignified royal deaths in history. Now, some historians think this story is made-up propaganda designed to humiliate Edmund's legacy. Others think it actually happened because, let's be honest, medieval assassination attempts were wild. People poisoned wine, loosened saddle straps, hired crossbowmen, and apparently hid in poop pits. The real lesson? Never let your guard down. Not even on the toilet. Especially not on the toilet. Death 3, Clement Vallandigham, killed by his own defense, year 1871. This one is almost too perfect. Clement Vallandigham was a lawyer in Ohio defending a man accused of murder. The prosecution claimed that the victim had been shot during a bar fight when he reached for his own gun. Vallandigham thought this was nonsense. He believed the victim had actually shot himself by accident while drawing his pistol. So he decided to demonstrate this theory to the jury to prove his client was innocent. He grabbed a pistol, showed the jury how the victim would have drawn the weapon, and shot himself in the abdomen. in front of everyone, in the courtroom, while trying to prove someone else had shot themselves by accident. The irony is almost poetic. He accidentally shot himself while demonstrating how someone else had accidentally shot themselves. He basically proved his theory correct by becoming a live demonstration of his own argument. The good news? His client was acquitted! The jury found him not guilty based on Vallandigham's very convincing, very literal demonstration. The bad news? Vallandigham died from his wound the next day. Imagine winning your case and losing your life in the same moment. Imagine your last words being, "See, this is how it happened," right before accidentally killing yourself. Imagine your tombstone reading, "Brilliant lawyer, excellent at his job, terrible with firearms." This man proved his point so well that he paid the ultimate price for it. That's dedication to your craft, but also maybe not the best approach to courtroom demonstrations. Death 4, Hans Steininger, death by beard, year 1567. Hans Steininger was the mayor of a small Austrian town, and he was famous for one thing, his beard. This thing was magnificent. It was over 4.5 feet long. That's taller than most people. He was so proud of it that he usually kept it rolled up and stored in a leather pouch to keep it clean and protected. But one day, in 1567, there was a fire in the town. People were panicking, running through the streets, trying to escape. Hans, being the mayor, rushed out to help coordinate the response. In his panic, he forgot to roll up his beard. As he was running, he stepped on his own beard, lost his balance, fell down a flight of stairs, broke his neck, and died instantly. The man literally tripped over his own facial hair and died. His pride and joy became his downfall in the most literal sense possible. And here's the kicker. They preserved his beard. You can still see it today in a museum in Austria. It's been sitting in a display case for over 450 years, outliving its owner by centuries. Imagine dedicating your entire life to growing an impressive beard, only to have that beard kill you. Imagine if the last thought that went through your head was, "Oh no, my beard," right before you tumbled to your death. The universe has a sense of humor, and sometimes that humor is dark. Aeschylus, death by turtle strike, 456 BC. Let's end with the granddaddy of weird deaths, Aeschylus, the ancient Greek playwright. This guy wrote tragedies. He basically invented Greek tragedy as a genre. He was one of the most important literary figures in human history. According to legend, an oracle once told him he would be killed by a falling object. So, naturally, Aeschylus started avoiding buildings and trees. He spent more time outdoors in open spaces where nothing could fall on him. Smart, right? Wrong. One day, while he was sitting in an open field feeling safe, an eagle flew overhead carrying a tortoise. Eagles do this. They grab tortoises, fly high, and drop them on rocks to break the shell so they can eat what's inside. But this eagle apparently mistook Aeschylus's bald head for a rock. The eagle dropped the tortoise. It fell from a significant height, gaining speed, and hit Aeschylus directly on the head, killing him instantly. So let me get this straight. One of the greatest writers in human history, a man who survived multiple wars and wrote dozens of plays about fate and tragedy, was killed by an eagle who thought his head was a rock and yeeted a turtle at it. The irony is almost too perfect. He avoided buildings to escape falling objects, only to be killed by a falling tortoise in the one place he thought was safe. He wrote tragedies for a living, and his own death became the most tragic comedy in history. Some scholars think this story is made up, possibly invented by later writers who wanted to create a fitting tragic end for a tragedy writer. But multiple ancient sources mention it, and honestly, nature is weird enough that death by aerial turtle bombardment isn't outside the realm of possibility. So there you have it. 5 of the absolute weirdest deaths in human history. And look, these stories are funny in a dark way. We can laugh at the absurdity because these people lived hundreds or thousands of years ago, and it's a way of processing the randomness of existence. But they also remind us of something important. Life is fragile, death is unpredictable, and sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of humor. You can do everything right, avoid every danger, live a careful and measured life, and still get taken out by a drunk donkey or a flying turtle. That's not depressing. That's almost liberating. It means the only thing you can really control is how you live while you're here. So maybe don't grow your beard too long. Maybe double check your guns before courtroom demonstrations. Maybe think twice before hiding in a cesspit to assassinate someone. And definitely don't give your donkey wine. What weird historical death did I miss? What bizarre way to go deserves to be remembered? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this morbidly fascinating journey through history's strangest exits, smash that like button and subscribe for more content that makes you grateful for modern safety standards. I'm out! And I'm gonna go live my life with a healthy appreciation for the fact that I'll probably die in a much more boring and predictable way than these legends. Stay safe out there. And watch out for eagles carrying tortoises. Peace.